Evening. I'd like to call the October 16th, 2023 regular meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, I would like to recognize Commissioner David Williams for the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. For those so inclined, please bow your head in prayer. Lord, we seek your blessings on this meeting before us tonight. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, and our decisions with impartiality and good judgment. Amen.
Everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is informal comments from the community. We will recognize speakers signed up for informal comments, and each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they are residents of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make remarks. A tone may sound at the conclusion of your remarks. A speaker may not yield any of his or her time to another speaker. Speakers may not discuss matters which are the subject of public hearings, and they must be courteous in their language and presentation. Restatements or repetitive comments by the same speaker, whether at the same or separate meetings, may be ruled out of order and terminated by the chair. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Speakers may leave written comments and/or supporting documents, if any, with our clerk to the board. The first speaker we have tonight is Fred LaRaza. And feel free to correct me on that last name.
That was better than most people do, so well done, thank you. It's Ilaraza, but that was very good. So my name is Fred Ilaraza. I am a resident of Union County from Marvin. Thank you for your time this evening. I'll try and be brief. I come before you today about a cell tower proposal that the Union County Board of Education is going to be voting on at their next session. And I come to you today because they've been really helpful in working with us. There's about 600 or so families that are very concerned at the proximity and height this tower is going to be to the school. And they've been very helpful, really willing to kind of listen to our side and some of the research we've found. But a few of them had mentioned that there was some pressure from the county that this was very much needed for EMS communications. So that's why I'm before you today. The proposed tower is 380 feet high, and it's about 25% closer to the school than the FCC or EPA recommend doing. And the height of the tower is an issue because right next to where the tower will be, in what is called the fall zone, because these can fall, is an outdoor classroom that is used frequently by the school for science lessons. In fact, the PTA is currently raising $40,000 to expand and enhance the outdoor classroom. I don't know if this was aware when they first proposed this and put it on their agenda, but we have brought this to their attention and we'd like to bring it to your attention as well. There was also cited the lack of coverage there. The big three, if you look at their coverage maps, all have great coverage. I personally can attest, being in the school frequently, I have a daughter who attends there, that I have excellent 5G service in the cafeteria, the classrooms I've been in, the car rider line throughout the school. Perhaps it's a brand loyalty issue, but T-Mobile is certainly great there. And we spoke to an expert in this field, my last point, and the lease is for about $1,000 a month to the Board of Education. Now, the standard going rate, he said, was about $3,000 to $4,000 for a 150-foot tower. 380-foot tower would typically go for more. I don't know how, this site developer came into contact or if an RFP was done, but it certainly seems far below the going rate for a deal like this. So perhaps, it's worth getting other developers to throw their hat in and look at other options here. So again, thank you all for your time.
Our next speaker is Stephen Suggs.
Good evening. How are you doing? My name is Stephen Suggs. I'm a Union County resident, a property owner in Weddington. I'm speaking in opposition to installing a radio tower and cellular tower at school sites, starting with Rayview Elementary. I've been in Union County for over 10 years. I'm an owner of a private business, Union County Kia. We're big supporters of education in our county. We are concerned about the teachers there. And my background prior to being in the automobile business was 18 years in telecommunications, selling, servicing, and coordinating installs very similar to this specific site, consulting with all types of businesses out of Florida. And excuse me for my nervousness, I don't do a lot of public speaking. In the prior industries I was in, we coordinated telecommunications for billion-dollar organizations nationwide. So bought systems very similar to this, and my big concern is I do not believe it's safe for the teachers at the school or the children at the school or myself as a resident that lives very close to where this tower is going to be. There are health concerns and studies that we can share with you that have shown low levels of radiation can cause biological damage, brain tumors, cancer, weakened immune functions, childhood leukemia, reduced sperm count, ovarian abnormalities, and included even worse, spontaneous abortion, genetic mutations, memory disruptions, hindered learning, ADD, insomnia. From my past experience in working with systems like this, we would have never, ever recommended putting one so close to the residential population that it's going to sit on and the school that it's immediately next to. These kids are literally going to be standing underneath this tower. It's very, very dangerous and not recommended, and I'm extremely concerned about it, and I hope you guys are as well at this first location. I have not seen the location placement for the others, but this is literally 400 feet from the front door of the school and less than 1,000 feet from my own personal house. So, thank you.
I think Dominique ran out of room, so I'm just going to go with Dominique. You can introduce your last name. I can't catch it.
It's probably a favor anyhow. So, hi, good evening. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Dominique Fryn. I am a resident in Union County, specifically Weddington. I have two kids that go to two different UCPS public schools. My daughter is at Rayview, and my son is at Sandy Ridge. I'm also here to share my concerns about the proposed tower. I've been part of the group of 600 families, 600 plus families, that organized fairly immediately after finding out about the proposal for this tower to go up as close as my neighbors and friends have shared with you guys. There are two key studies that we can point to. There's a German study and an Israeli study that indicate that cancer rates are 300% more likely or 300% higher when you're within closer than 1,500 feet of these towers. In addition to that, children are more susceptible. Their brains are developing. I'm not going to proclaim to be a medical expert. Actually, part of our group is well credentialed in the medical field, but unfortunately weren't able to make it to address you all tonight. I do want to share the sentiment that was expressed by Fred. The school board was set to make a decision on this item at their past meeting. I think there were some folks that were unavailable to answer some of the questions that we collectively had, And so I want to commend the school board and thank them for taking the time to really inform themselves, right? We've learned a lot about these towers. We've learned a lot about their impact on specifically our kids. I mean, I realize there's a need for them. I think a field is a very appropriate location. There are most likely alternatives that can be explored. And I just want to implore you that we shift the focus for all of this back to what's most important, and that's the health of our kids. So if we can, I mean, we've researched extensively. We're hosting webinars for folks to be informed. We'd love to extend that information and make it available to you because, again, we're not all experts in all things. But certainly, I mean, the more I started learning about these towers, the more scared I became. And, you know, I really think that if we're going to make these kinds of decisions, it should be with full depth of information and, again, with our key constituents at our heart. So thank you. And I want to thank the school board again. They've been great partners in speaking with us and open to hearing us. So I thank you for the same.
Are there any other speakers who have not signed up and wish to speak? Hearing none, we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Are there any revisions requested to the consent agenda? Then I make a motion we approve consent as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We are now at the business portion of our agenda. The first item of business is item 23-637, text amendment 2023-001, transportation plan amendment. I want to recognize Bjorn Hansen, Senior Planner, for comments from county staff.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Manager Matthews. This is a follow-up from your most recent meeting where you conducted a public hearing for the proposed amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance to change the plan that we reference when it comes to sidewalk and road requirements, transitioning from our decade-old multimodal transportation plan to the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization's comprehensive transportation plan. So same information as what was presented 2 weeks ago. We haven't received any comments during that time, and so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Otherwise, the requested action is to approve the amendment, which would then obviously go into effect for the UDO. And so, yes, like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance approving text amendments to Section 60.110 and 105.210 of the Unified Development Ordinance of the Union County, North Carolina, and to adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement for approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is item 23-696, easement acquisition status update for fiscal year 2021, the Short Waterline Extension Program, Phase B. I want to recognize John Shutak, our Engineering Division's Director, for this item.
Vice Chair, members of the board, Manager Matthews, thank you for your time this evening. I will do my best to be brief. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about our short water line extension program as it relates to easement acquisition, specifically Phase B of the FY21 projects. As you all know, Union County does maintain a program to extend the water distribution infrastructure to residents of Union County who desire our services. That's known as the Short Water Line Extension Program, and it's been around for a long time. It's under its current configuration. We presently take in applications on an annual basis. Those applications are then ranked based on a set of criteria, which you all have approved. And staff look at those rankings, prioritize those projects, and ultimately bring back a recommendation or a recommended list of projects for you to consider. And then the board can take action to either approve or decline those. If they are approved, staff then move forward with design, permitting, easement acquisition, and construction of those projects. And over the years, this program and its various configurations has experienced a number of challenges. Presently, we're seeing more issues related to easement acquisition, which is why I'm standing here before you tonight. And just as a reminder, we're not asking for any action tonight. This is just for informational purposes. So I'm going to give you an overview of the FY21 Phase B project, talk a little bit about the project schedule, where we stand with easement acquisition, what alternatives we have as it relates to easement acquisition, and then future actions that we'll be coming back to you with. So just getting right into the meat of it, the FY21 Phase B project will provide water to 17 applicants across 11 different locations. You can see the 11 locations listed on the left of the slide there. The ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that we're struggling a little bit with easement acquisition on. So that's the reason those are highlighted. Program information or project information is over on the right of the slide. You can see overall it's about 2 miles in length. Pipe sizes range anywhere from 2 to 8 inches in diameter, about $1.4 million in project cost, and it'll take us about 9 months to build this once we have a contract in place with a contractor. Where we stand with our project schedule, well, we've been at this for a little bit. You'll notice the years on this. So final design was really completed in March of 2022. We proceeded into permitting generally between March and October of last year, and during that time frame we also began our easement acquisition process starting around May. And if you recall, we came back to you in September because we ran into some issues. And we really needed some direction from the board on how we needed to proceed with easement acquisition. Historically, the program has not compensated owners for easements. However, not every extension includes every property owner along that roadway that we're extending water to. You may have an applicant at the start, a couple of folks who aren't applicants, an applicant at the end. So the folks in the middle who are not part of that application really have no vested interest to grant us an easement. So we came back to you asking for direction on that because the ordinance language wasn't clear on how we needed to proceed. And we got that direction. So in September of '22, we did move forward with that easement acquisition process. Based on where we are today, should we have direction moving forward on how we're going to proceed with this particular project, we would move forward with bidding and then contracting an award throughout the end of this year, finishing that process in January of '24, moving into construction in February, wrapping up in October of next year. So definitely not the ideal time frame for one of these projects, but it is where we are. So where do we stand with easements? Because that's obviously the critical path to moving this project forward. First, I'll start with the last bullet first. We needed 23 easements, and the good news is we've acquired 19 of those. 4 did have to be referred to our attorneys for negotiation and settlement, and you can see those on the right of the slide there, the 4 properties that are highlighted in yellow. These are over 3 different locations. And based on that direction that I was just talking about from September of last year, applicants, we don't provide any compensation. They donate the easement as part of their request. And non-applicants, we compensate them for their easement, for the easement across the frontage of their property in accordance with our easement acquisition policy. So if we can't get to resolution on an easement, our easement acquisition policy states we refer that to our attorneys for negotiation and settlement. If they're unable to reach a settlement, then we would approach the board and request condemnation authority. That's the typical process. And that's one of the alternatives here. We can move forward with that. Request that you authorize us to utilize eminent domain proceedings, and that way all 17 applicants remain part of the overall project. Project length remains the same. Everybody is getting what they asked for. The other alternative here is if we're not interested in moving forward with condemnation on those easements, we can simply remove these 3 locations from the project and move forward without it. This would involve refunding fees that have been paid by the applicants in the amount of $585 apiece, and it would reduce the overall project length to 1.7 miles instead of the original 2.1. So that would be exactly the requested action. We would be asking you all to make a decision at the November meeting to either authorize us to move forward with condemnation or authorize removing these 3 locations from the project and proceeding in that direction. So with that said, I'd be happy to take any questions. Again, I'm not asking for any direction. We'll come back to you on the 6th and talk about this briefly again.
John, I don't really have questions, more of a statement, but I will say that, you're right, we did revisit that policy regarding condemnation. It's been brought up a couple of times, I believe, since we've visited that policy. What I will say is that that's not something that this board takes lightly. And I will say, too, that there's a number of different steps before it reaches that point. So I just want to reassure the public that no matter what's decided at our next meeting, that's not something that we do lightheartedly. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
John,
Yes, sir.
question. This is 2021's plan that we did on the Shortline Extension, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is this all the people that applied?
No, this is Phase B. The FY21 projects include Phase A, B, and C.
Okay.
Our total applicants were 80, 85.
Okay. And you had, if I recall, $5 million committed to creating the Shortline Extension.
Correct.
What is the total going to be for A, B, and C?
I can tell you B, that's 1.35, but I don't have the total offhand. Maybe 4.5-ish? We're not quite at 5 million, but we're close to it.
Okay.
Well, and keep in mind that these are estimates. Those are not bids. We have not received bids on these projects, so they could come in higher or lower at that time. We just don't know at this
Okay.
point.
Thank you.
Certainly. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Nice job.
So that ends business for tonight. I will now recognize County Manager Brian Matthews. Any comments you might have?
I do not have any at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will start with Commissioner Richard Helms. If you have any comments tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Edwin and his church. I participated in a prayer breakfast on Saturday, and it was pastors from all around the county that came together to pray for our county. And it was an outstanding event, and I just wanted to thank you.
Commissioner David Williams.
No comments tonight, Madam Vice Chair.
Commissioner Brian Helms.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just realized that my microphone wasn't on earlier when John was up there, so I'll just restate that regarding John's presentation and the easements, that condemnation is not something that we take lightly. I want to reassure the public that there's a multi-stage process involved before we even consider something like that. So that's always a last resort. In regards to the speakers that we had this evening, I would like to personally thank the speakers that
took the time to come here to our meeting and express their concerns. And I'd like to reassure those folks that the health of our county, as well as or especially our children, remains our top priority. With that, that's all of my comments. Thank you.
I do not have any comments tonight. I move that the board adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good night.
Can you, I recall that we amended the zoning.